Tom Sizemore, The Last Fade, A Life of Fury, Fire, and an Incapable Heart. Tom Sizemore died alone in a poorly lighted Los Angeles apartment on the morning of March 3, 2023, with the distant hum of traffic on Sunset Boulevard as his only witness. He was 61 years old, and the end came with the quiet finality of a script that no one anticipated, rather than a theatrical flourish or a monologue worthy of Hollywood. The cause? A ruptured brain aneurysm triggered by a stroke, a startling betrayal of the body he'd pushed to its limits for decades. He'd slumped 2 weeks earlier, on February 18th, in the kitchen of his modest North Hollywood rental, mid-sip from a lukewarm cup of black coffee. Paramedics discovered him slumped against the counter, pulse thready, eyes half open in that concentrated look that had distinguished his finest roles. Rushed to Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank, he lay in a coma on life support, devices blaring like a sad metronome to his diminishing heartbeat. His manager, Charles Lago, verified the news that Friday afternoon. Tom passed peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by family. His brother Paul and twin sons Jaden and Jagger, just 17, stood by his side, clutching hands that had formerly clenched fists in rage and held scripts with frantic hope. Tom Sizemore didn't die from an overdose, a car crash, or a fight in some pub at 3 a.m., even though the tabloids had spent 25 years wagering for one of those endings. He died from a stroke and a brain aneurysm that detonated inside his skull like a landmine he never knew was buried there. At 6:42 a.m. on February 18, 2023, a clot formed in one of his brain's convoluted highways, most likely the right middle cerebral artery, and shut off blood flow to the areas that controlled his left side, his speech, and eventually everything else. The headache hit first, a lightning bolt behind the eyes that knocked him to his knees in the kitchen. His speech had vanished, his left arm was limp, and the pressure within his skull was already approaching fatal levels by the time the paramedics arrived. They got him to Providence St. Joseph fast, but the real killer was waiting in the wings. A berry aneurysm, a thin-walled balloon on the anterior communicating artery that had been growing quietly for years, fed by decades of sky-high blood pressure, cocaine-scarred vessels, and the kind of chronic stress that never shows up on a drug test. The initial stroke raised his intracranial pressure. That surge was the catalyst. The aneurysm burst like a tire blowing out on the expressway. Blood surged into the subarachnoid space, a crimson deluge that strangled the surrounding brain tissue and propelled his pressure measurements into the red zone. While the swelling crushed what was left, the machines kept him breathing for 2 weeks. Physicians discussed diffuse cerebral edema, uncal herniation, and fixed and dilated pupils in low voices. Translation: the brain was dying inch by inch, and there was no surgical remedy, no magical clotbuster, no Hollywood finale. The aneurysm had done its work too well. When they eventually pulled assistance on March 3rd, his heart, scarred, swollen, weary from years of racing to keep up with the chaos, held on for 6 more minutes. Then it stopped. No dramatic flatline crash, just a quiet, ultimate hush. That was it. No needle, not a bottle, just the calm, cruel math of a body that had taken too many hits and finally ran out of second chances. The same silent killer that drops marathon runners in their driveways killed the man who had survived beaches in Vietnam, streets in Mogadishu, and every devil Hollywood could throw at him. A stroke and a burst aneurysm. He was caught off guard by 2 bullets. The aneurysm was an abrupt punctuation to a life full of silent killers, not a coincidence. Doctors explained it simply to the family. A weakened blood vessel in the brain, inflated from years of high blood pressure, unmanaged stress, and the vascular wear and tear of a guy who'd abused his body like it was an expendable prop. The preceding stroke, which was probably ischemic, a clot-depriving brain tissue of oxygen, had blown the dam, filling his head with swelling and blood that could not be contained by surgery. No drugs in his system that morning, no overdose to blame. Simply the cumulative toll of a lifetime's excesses catching up in one ruthless instant. Sizemore had survived overdoses in the 1990s, auto accidents in the 2000s, and legal scrapes that left him damaged but alive. This time, the Reaper didn't knock. He kicked in the door. You have to go back in time to Tom Sizemore's burning in order to understand how he ended. Born on November 29, 1961, in Detroit, Michigan, Thomas Edward Sizemore Jr. was raised in a blue-collar world of Motown records and factory whistles. He was the second of four boys born to a homemaker mother who yearned for escape via stories and a laboring father. Young Tommy was a scrapper, fists always ready, mouth quicker still, channeling that passion into athletics until a knee injury at 16 incapacitated him for life. He took theatrical classes at Temple University, where his unadulterated charisma attracted the attention of academics. This led to a scholarship at Rutgers, where he developed a skill that would make him a celebrity and break him a dozen times over. "Acting saved me," he'd explain in sober moments, "because without it, I'd have ended up in prison or worse." Hollywood phoned in 1989 with a tiny part in Lockup, Sylvester Stallone's prison drama, where Sizemore's coiled fury as a criminal hinted at the force he could unleash. But it was Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July, 1989, that ignited him, playing the wheelchair-bound vet, Dr. Ray, a role that won him a Golden Globe mention and rumors of the next De Niro. Stone recognized it too, casting him as the volatile mobster in Natural Born Killers, 1994, where Sizemore's frenetic energy shredded landscape alongside Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis. "Tom was lightning in a bottle," Stone later observed. "You couldn't direct him. You just pointed the camera and prayed." That volatility emerged in True Romance, 1993, as the menacing enforcer Cody, pistol-whipping Dennis Hopper in a sequence so visceral it left crew members scared. Tony Scott's Heat, 1995, followed, Sizemore as the twitchy criminal Michael Chirito, stealing moments from Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in a heist gone wrong. Critics raved, "Sizemore is the live wire in a cast of fuses." His heyday was in the 1990s. Saving Private Ryan, 1998, immortalized him as Sergeant Mike Horvath, Tom Hanks's devoted right-hand man, storming Normandy beaches with grim determination. Spielberg, who'd heard tales of Sizemore's troubles, cast him on one condition: daily drug tests. Tom passed every one, Hanks recounted in a memorial service in 2023. He was sober for the whole shoot, and it showed. Horvath's got that haunted heroism because Lance poured his soul into it. Black Hawk Down, 2001, doubled down. Sizemore as Lieutenant Cole Danny McKnight leading Delta Force into Mogadishu's hellfire, his sweat-soaked ferocity echoing the real soldier's dread. Ridley Scott termed him the beating heart of the chaos. Off-screen, though, the heart was weakening. Sizemore's addictions, cocaine since his 20s and heroin by his 30s, fueled both the darkness and the fire. "I was method before method was cool," he'd remark bitterly. "Except my character was always the junkie who dies in Act 2. The 2000s saw a tightening of the spiral, a 2003 conviction for abusing ex-girlfriend Heidi Fleiss, the Hollywood madam who'd once called him her soulmate, landed him 16 months in jail, emerging haggard and indignant. The devastation was chronicled in VH1's Shooting Sizemore, 2007, a reality series that followed his court appearances, rehab stays, and desperate auditions, where he would win over producers one day and then turn them down the next. On camera, he said, "I lost everything," with sunken eyes. Wife, kids, career, gone because I couldn't say no to the needle. Maeve Quinlan, his wife from 1996 to 1999, filed for divorce amid the tumult, claiming his volatility. They shared custody of son Rock, born 1998, but the boy's childhood became collateral in tabloid warfare. Jaden and Jagger, twins from a 2005 relationship, grew up in the shadow of headlines. Dad's DUE in 2010, another assault charge in 2016, dropped after the victim recanted. A 2018 lawsuit from an underage actress alleging abuse on Wine of Morning set, Sizemore vehemently denied it, settling out of court for undisclosed terms. By the 2010s, roles fell to B movies and TV guest spots. Hawaii 5-0, The Bay, voice work in Grand Theft Auto. Vice City, 2002, as the unscrupulous Sonny Forelli. He taught acting at LA West Studio, guiding wide-eyed dreamers with stories of De Niro's technique, craziness, and Pacino's fire. "Don't chase fame," he would advise them. "Chase truth. Relapses followed like terrible sequels to his periods of sobriety, which included treatment in 2013 and a memoir titled By Some Miracle, I Made It Out of There, 2013, that described his lowest point. He was accused of running over a coworker while intoxicated on the shooter set in a 2016 lawsuit that was secretly settled. In 2020, COVID isolation struck hard, exacerbating anxiety that therapy was unable to completely control. A 2021 Cobra Kai cameo as a sleazy sensei, his frantic energy a throwback to the past, was one of the glimmers. On February 18, 2023, the last act debuted. Home alone, Stephanie at a meeting, kids at school, Sizemore rose at 6 a.m., brewed coffee, scrolled emails for an audition callback. A searing headache erupted behind his eyelids, disregarded as hangover fog. He'd had one beer the night before. Then the world tilted, eyesight confused, left arm numb, speech slurring into nonsense. He stumbled over to the phone and fell in the middle of the dial. Neighbors heard the thump, phoned 911 at 6:42 a.m. Paramedics came at 6:58, finding him lifeless, pupils unequal, respiration hard. The stroke struck hard on the way to Providence St. Joseph, causing an ischemic event in the right middle cerebral artery and a clot that prevented blood flow to the language and motor regions. Brain scans showed swelling, a ticking bomb. Neurosurgeons discussed TPA clotbusters when he was admitted at 7:20 a.m., but decided against treatment because of his history of hypertension. By midday, the aneurysm burst, causing a weakening wall in the anterior communicating artery to explode under pressure, creating a berry-like protrusion. Blood invaded the subarachnoid area, creating vasospasm that choked neighboring vessels. ICP, intracranial pressure, increased to 35 mmHg, lethal level. Coma set in the nightfall. EEG indicated minimal activity, simply brainstem reflexes. Family gathered. Paul coming in from Detroit. Jaden and Jagger driven by their mom. Rock video calling from college. Stephanie arrived at 8 p.m., clutching his hand, saying lines from Saving Private Ryan, "Earn this." Monitors beeped relentlessly. Heart rate 110, blood pressure plummeting despite pressors. The 2 weeks were misery veiled as vigil. Doctors detailed the cascade. Stroke clogs brain tissue, aneurysm bleeds it, swelling crushes what's left. No surgery viable. Risk of rebleed too great. Life support, ventilator hissing, feeding tube leaking. Vasopressors keeping pressure up. Family rotated shifts. Paul reading racing facts, Tom's secret interest, twins playing his favorite Springsteen tracks, Rock offering memes that brought no smile. Visitors trickled in. De Niro sending flowers with a note. "Brother, fight like we did on set." Spielberg called Stephanie. "He was my Horvath. Tell him we're waiting." However, brain scans got worse. Pupils fixed, herniation impending. The group met on March 2nd, declared, "No further hope. End-of-life choice taken." Support discontinued March 3rd at 10:17 a.m. Heart faltered at 10:23, flatline at 10:25. Tom Sizemore, the man who dodged death in Black Hawk Down, couldn't cheat it now. Hollywood felt the aftershocks of his death. Saving Private Ryan cast reunited electronically. Hanks praising the brother who earned it every day. Heat co-stars grieved the wild heart lost. Fans trended, ripped him Sizemore, uploading true romance footage where his menace stole breaths. But compliments tempered with truth. His demons, addiction since 20s, DV convictions, Fleiss in 2003, 16 months served. The 2018 lawsuit, settled, rejected vehemently, cast lengthy shadows. Tom was fire, Pacino remarked, beautiful and dangerous. No funeral, ashes scattered at sea per his wishes, a secret tribute to Heat's ocean finish. Now 52, Stephanie uses his residuals to donate her sadness to the Sizemore Foundation for addiction treatment. He fought every day, she claims. We'll fight for him. Inseparable twins with their father's eyes, sons Jaden and Jagger intend to pursue professions in film. To tell stories he couldn't, Rock 24 directs shorts replicating natural-born killers' insanity. Tom Sizemore ended like he raged, passionately, unforgettably, a stroke and aneurysm snuffing a blaze that burnt too bright, too long. His heart, metaphoric and literal, gave all, leaving a legacy damaged yet scorching. In Saving Private Ryan, Horvath dies covering his men. Sizemore lived that, sacrificing for art, family, redemption. A man who, in his damaged manner, demonstrated to us the price of living large is given credit in the final cut. Tom Sizemore spent his life playing men who went down swinging. Ultimately, he went down the same path as the majority of us, quickly by himself and with nothing else to say. Sergeant Horvath, don't worry, the war's ended.